Salt Lake is America's Mountain City. And instantly the team got together and they're like, that's it. That's our trademark. We're America's Mountain City. It's our differentiator. There's no other destination, I think, that can claim that in the way that we can. 100% of the time, they come out and they're like, I had no idea. The mountains are right here. I can't believe it. Even from the time that they fly in and they see the mountains for the first time. So once we get them here, it's a really easy sell.
Because people don't realize how clean it is. People don't realize how nice it is from my house close to downtown, 8 minutes to the airport. The economy, being able to be on a trailhead after work within 10, 15 minutes.
$1,700 per household tax offset. So it's essentially $1,700 less that Salt Lake Countyers pay in taxes because of the revenue that's offsetting. I love it to the point of like, it's my identity.
If you're looking for a blanket around the house or the perfect gift for someone that they'll actually use, you have to check out Minky Couture blankets. Their Hugs blankets are soft, comfortable, and definitely the blanket you'll use every day around your house. They also make dog beds, so your dog can be just as comfortable as you are. Use the link in the description or use code Small Lake City for 50% off your Minky Couture order. One of my friends who's a content creator that does a lot of like Asian food.
Yeah.
I had him on. I was like, so what's your favorite like Chinese restaurant? He's like, real Chinese or like American Chinese? I'm like, both.
Yeah.
And he's like, American Chinese. He's like, sign me up for Panda Express orange chicken or like P.F. Chang's all day.
Yeah.
He's like, but it's not Chinese. I'm like, yeah, it's similar to Taco Bell, Mexican food. Like,
totally. Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely a creature of habit in so many different ways. I was even record with someone yesterday who's a professional trail runner and trail run coach.
Crazy.
And he was like, he has friends come into town like, oh, I'm gonna go trail run here. He's like, oh, I haven't been there like 5 years. Or I've never been there. And they're like, what do you mean you live here? It's like, well, yeah, but it doesn't mean like I'm actively always trying to find like new places and like go in discovery mode.
We're all creatures of habit.
Yes.
Yes.
For good or for bad.
Yeah.
But mostly for good, I think.
Love it. I think so too. I think it's good to have structure.
Eskelson is your last name?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. There's been only like 2 times where I said someone's name the entire episode. They're like, why did you, why didn't you correct me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But I'm excited because this is probably episode 120, 121.
Wow.
And it's interesting when I've talked to so many people in so many different aspects of how they view Utah, Salt Lake in their own humdrum of life.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until last year when you had the Content Creator Summit at Red Butte and hearing you talk about like the interesting way that you frame Salt Lake, look at Utah in your role at Visit Salt Lake.
Yep.
And it kind of like I was sitting there, I was like, yep, she'd be a perfect guest for the podcast because there's so few people and it's almost antithetical to so many people in Salt Lake because like there's almost like this locals only, no outsiders, no more Californians, but yours is almost the opposite of like, hey, come check it out, come visit. Here's why you should.
Yes. Yes. I mean, obviously that's the whole job, but I think that it's really interesting to surround yourself with, other perspectives and people from elsewhere and, things like that. And one of the things I always equate visitors to for Utah is they're kind of like grandkids. Like they come, they spend their money and then they go home, you know? And so there's a lot of good that comes out of welcoming others to the state, whether it's philosophically or culturally, but also economically, it's a really good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, especially in a place like Utah where so much of our economy is driven by tourism. I mean, national parks, the mountains, I mean, everything. But there's also, I mean, everybody who travels outside of Salt Lake, you tell them you're from Utah, it's like, oh, how many moms do you have? Oh, I hear this, I hear that. You're like, you've never even been there. Don't go down this rabbit hole if you don't want to.
Yeah.
But so I'm excited to hear your story of like not only how you got here in your role, what it means and what the future looks like, but I'm mostly curious about how you got to Utah and especially to work in like what would you call like the industry?
So we call ourselves like destination marketing.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really evolving to much more than that. And so now it's more, we kind of call ourselves, we call ourselves a destination sales and experience organization for a lot of reasons, because I think as we're trying to break through the marketing noise and tell the narrative behind Salt Lake, there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
We can definitely talk about that too.
Oh, no, want to
Yeah.
get into it. But I mean, I imagine destination marketing wasn't what you drew in your diary in
No.
elementary school of what you wanted to do and
Yeah.
end up in Utah. But remind me, I mean, where you're from
Yep.
and kind of, I mean, set the stage for how you ended up
Yeah.
in Utah.
So I'm from a very small town in Wisconsin. It was about 5,000 people back then. I grew up skiing, so my parents had kind of formed their relationship in Steamboat. They moved out there together as friends and then dated, and the rest is history. But so they were big skiers, and so I grew up skiing, and it was a big, huge part of my life. But the resorts in the Midwest are hills. Like, I'm not kidding when I say you can start from the top and be to the bottom in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And so you're spending the majority of your day, on the chairlift itself. Typically you're skiing at night, it's very icy. It's not the best of anything.
Yeah.
And so I always aspired to come out west. And I really, I didn't grow up traveling. The first time I was on an airplane was we had won this trip to MGM Studios in Florida, to be on a game show with our dog. I know, very random, but so I didn't grow up traveling, and I didn't grow up with a lot of experiences outside of the state. So again, growing up in the Midwest, skiing a lot, coming from a family of skiers, I ski instructed there. But I think what changed my trajectory was I had this mentor in the ski world that was really connected to a lot of places out west, and in particular Vail, Colorado, and Beaver Creek. And basically he called out and just said, hey, this would be a really good hire for some seasonal staff. Can she come out during her breaks in college? Yeah. So I spent about
It's always the bait of how to get people west. Like, well, just
totally.
come for a winter, you'll enjoy it, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
And then like 20 years later, you're like, what happened?
Yeah, you're like, I came for the winter, stayed for the summer, and never left. So I ended up in Colorado, during my off times, when I had breaks from college and things, and was ski instructing at Beaver Creek. Did that for probably 4 years, and then decided that I wanted to be out west full time. But it was right around 9/11, so there weren't a lot of jobs. So I ended up essentially getting a part-time job in Park City, moving out there, packed everything up in my car, was all alone with my dog, and moved to Utah. And the rest is honestly history.
Yeah.
And that was 22 years ago.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And it's interesting looking at your experience because it's all kind of within Utah, but again, it's a lot of this destination marketing of like how to get people here.
Yep.
And I mean, I can imagine, well, let's step back because like a lot of places have something like this.
Right.
Most major cities, I mean, primary, secondary, tertiary cities have something to try to bring, boost the economy, especially via tourism.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places it's a tough sell.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of places where it's like, okay, like if you can at least get people here, that's good.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was talking to Kendall Rodriguez, who's the director of operations for women's basketball, she'd have these people be like, well, I'm going to go to Stanford. I'm going to go to UCLA. I'm going to do this. And she'd be like, just come visit. And she knew that if she could get people to come visit, it's like a 75% chance that they would stay.
1,000,000%. I would even say closer to 90. I mean, Salt Lake is just one of those destinations. So when we do a lot of bidding for business, because major conventions, you have to go through an RFP and you have to bid on the piece of business, and you're competing against other cities. And it's just so interesting because I always say you have to meet the minimum qualifications to get the interview.
Yeah.
And then once we get the interview, we win every time. Not every time, but very, very often.
Sorry, just pulling out notes because Ryan sent me a couple questions.
Oh, you're good.
Oh yeah, pretty easy stuff. But I mean, so you come out west for a seasonal job, end up staying here, leave your spotted cow in Wisconsin behind you.
I love spotted cow, by the way.
I went to, side tangent. So when I was in college, I went to this conference for this internship I was at.
Okay.
And I had a buddy from Wisconsin. I texted him like, hey, like, what should I do? Thinking like, oh, if you're in downtown, go here, go there. He's like, spotted cow. That's all I got to do. So I order one. I'm like, all right, well, that's all I'm drinking the rest of the trip.
Yeah.
And every time since, if I ever find myself in Wisconsin or know anybody in Wisconsin, I'm like, listen, I need you to get me at least a 6-pack of spotted cow.
1,000,000%.
And I'm going to be a happy guy.
I just had 2 cases delivered to my house from someone that had come back from Wisconsin. So, yeah.
And so as you started this career, you come out, you take this risk. I mean, what was it that, made you want to stay in this destination marketing, or really what made solidify for you as a career path?
Yeah. So I think that when I was kind of going to college and ski instructing, I was looking at all of these families that were coming out and could afford to for these ski vacations, which are very, very expensive.
Yep.
And I was like, how do you really have it all? Like, how do you have a real job that I would call a real job, which in my mind was, something professional, corporate 9 to 5. Back then, I guess that was sort of just the norm. While also having this great quality of life, because I was under the assumption that you couldn't live in a ski town and have the proximity to a major city to have, at this point, I'm thinking a big kid job, kind of thing. And so when I came out to Utah, I was like, oh my gosh, like I was living in Park City at the time, but Salt Lake was so close. The airport was so close. And I'm like, I started to watch all of these, at that time, these young generation people in their 20s that were going to college. They were having these amazing careers with fast trajectories, and they had some amazing quality of life, and they could ski and hike and do all these things. And I was like, this is an unbelievable place. And actually, I believe that the accessibility and the proximity to the mountains and the urban and the mountain and, everything combined, you can't get it anywhere else at all.
And that was so much of my experience. I'm from here, moved to Seattle after graduating, and then came back, and I kind of lived this role that I would see other people do, where whether it was college or a life after college, they'd leave Salt Lake. And when I was in middle school, high school, it'd be like, oh, like you got out, you made it. And then years later, they'd come back and be like, no, why would you do that?
Yeah.
But then when I came back, it was more of a forced hand. And even me and my partner at the time were kind of iffy on it. I mean, it was like kind of that weird post-COVID, like 21, 22.
Yeah.
And we're both working remote, and it was like, hey, like, should we just go travel in a van and see like where we want to go? Yeah. And so it was like 6 months, 36 states later of really like turning over every stone that we thought could be a potential. And I remember walking down the mall in DC and being like, I'm excited to go back to Utah.
Yeah.
Because people don't realize how clean it is. People don't realize how nice it is from my house close to downtown, 8 minutes to the airport. The economy, being able to be on a trailhead after work within 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's insane. And so especially when you have people who it's like, oh, well, Denver, mountain town. I'm like, Denver's more in the Midwest than it is in the mountains. Like you look where Denver is and it's right on the border. You want to get anywhere, it's 2-3 hours. And when I was in college, I was actually one of the first Lyft drivers in Utah.
Okay.
And I remember I was working a Sundance and it was dark. Someone flew in from LA and she's like, hey, so like, when are we going to be in the mountains? Like, I don't, like when does that happen? Can we see? I'm like, we're like halfway up Parley's.
Right.
I'm like, we're here. Like we're in it. Like if there was light, you would see.
Yeah.
And so it's funny to see how people have these like understandings of things, but don't truly understand how great it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, so for people who aren't aware, I mean, talk to me about some of the things that Visit Salt Lake gets involved with, like the mission and how it supports Salt Lake.
Yeah. So Visit Salt Lake's mission is we're, again, a sales and experience organization. So what we're tasked with is essentially bringing in what we call exogenous spend into Salt Lake County, which is basically new money, so from out-of-state visitors that come in and add to the economy here. So it's a little bit different than, having a great economy of locals that recycles the dollars in state. So that's kind of the premise behind it. But essentially, in layman's terms, we bring in conventions. So we fill the Salt Palace Convention Center. We bring in a lot of youth and amateur sporting events. We bring in entertainment events. I mean, we bring in everything, that you can really imagine, as long as it is a group of some substantial size. Yeah. We also work out at the Mountain America Expo Center as well. But we do have a contract with Salt Lake County. So our purview is the entire valley floor, plus the 4 resorts in the Cottonwoods. Yeah. So, yeah. And then we have a leisure side as well. So, about half of our organization is dedicated to kind of that group booking. And then we have the other half that's marketing and PR and things like that. So we have a national PR firm. So oftentimes if you see us in Travel and Leisure or Condé Nast, or we hosted Good Morning America a couple of weeks ago, those things typically stem from our office, and then we're pitching them to the media.
And I imagine it's a lot of coordination with a lot of other I mean, businesses in Salt Lake County itself, and a lot of, I mean,
Yes.
herding cats, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. I mean, so we are a membership organization. We have about 650 members. A lot of them are small businesses, a lot of them are hotels. But our mission, I mean,
If you're trying to keep up with everything life throws at you, work, workouts, long runs, rounds of golf, whatever it might be, having your nutrition dialed matters. That's why I use Gnarly Nutrition, from supporting my recovery to fueling performance and helping me feel good no matter what I've got going on. And even better, they're located right here in Utah. Whether you're in the gym, on the trail, or just trying to get through your day, Gnarly has you covered. Check them out through the link in the description to see why they've become part of my daily routine.
we don't own anything. We own the vision, and it's up to us to help tell the story and make sure that we're trying to feed business into the local businesses and the local community. And we also really want to be cognizant that the visitors that are coming here are having a really good time, but also that they're being responsible and that they can kind of merge with the locals, and that there's not this tourist versus resident hostility.
Yeah, actually, perfect segue into the question, because I
Yeah.
think about like these two parties that you have to, well, maybe three if you want to bring in like the government side of things and just like, I mean, that side. But I mean, from the people who live here, I mean, how do they benefit from everything Visit Salt Lake does? And then how do the people who, I mean, obviously if they come, it's the experiences that you sell and all of that. But I mean, talk to me more, I guess, about the people of Salt Lake County and what they benefit, especially when they're not going to all the conferences or the conventions and really getting a front row seat like you do.
Yeah. So I always say that tourism is the front door to economic development. So we get a lot of business here, and a lot of businesses that relocate here just because of the quality of life. So that's kind of on its face, the easy way to explain it. But really, there is a lot of direct benefits. So what is it? I think it's $6.1 billion is the direct spend that happens just in Salt Lake County. That's crazy. What a lot of people don't realize is that we account for, as Salt Lake County, we account for 46% of the total state economic impact that visitation brings in. So it's not the national parks, I mean, it is, but the majority is happening right here in Salt Lake County. So we are a huge economic driver. What that means for residents directly is about a $1,700 per household tax offset. So it's essentially $1,700 less that Salt Lake Countyers pay in taxes because of the revenue that's offsetting. And so whether that is, taxes that visitors are paying, all of that. And then you think of the reciprocal benefits of, the money that can go into the schools and roads and utilities and things like that. So it's really interesting. It's a whole ecosystem that people are like, what?
Yeah.
I had no idea. But I think also when you look around and you look at new rec centers that come up or parks or trails, a lot of that is also generated from tourism revenue.
Yeah. I mean, especially on the county lens, because those are the ones that manage all of that. Because I had someone, well, wow, that's a long time ago now. It's probably like episode 20-ish of someone who was running for county council and being like, so separate these two for me, because they're Salt Lake County, they're Salt Lake City, and I'll spare everybody the details, but it's a lot of the things that we need to do that nobody realizes they're being done unless something goes wrong.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
And it's like, and it's always interesting because so I work out at Edison House almost every morning.
Okay.
And now, I mean, the Sheraton's closed down. Shout out WGU for buying an entire city block. But I would sit there and like be walking on the treadmill, and I'd see people walking by from the Sheraton to the convention center, and I'd always try to guess what the convention was.
Yes.
And it would be anything from like Catholic youth camp to volleyball tournament to construction, what have it. And like I would guess, and then I'd look and see what it actually was.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize like how much money goes into just conferences, conventions, unless that's part of your professional life. But then how much it's just like, knock them out and let them go. Yeah. And so I'm curious especially if it's like a newer conference or if they're going to a new place for the first time or everybody's sick of going to Vegas again, how many of those people are like, we'll give it a shot. And then at the end, they're like, we'll see you next time.
That's what's really funny. So our sales team, the average convention book's about 5 to 7 years in advance, which is crazy. I mean, the life cycle is very long. But that is what our team does. And so we have to first sell it to the meeting planner and then convince them that they can get attendance as if they were going to a Las Vegas or a San Diego and in a lot of ways, that is why we have to create such a compelling story, because we need them to buy off on it. And to your point, like 100% of the time they come out and they're like, I had no idea the mountains are right here. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, even from the time that they fly in and they see the mountains for the first time. So once we get them here, it's a really easy sell, and they'll typically return and rebook their conference but yeah, I mean, we're competing really heavily with other destinations that have a brand that they've been pushing for decades and decades. And Salt Lake is just a little bit new. I always say that Salt Lake is sort of in an adolescence, I would say,
Yes.
where we're growing up.
Yeah.
And it's a really fun time to be part of Salt Lake. And I think you're going to see a really fast trajectory, as we lead up to the Olympics. But we're just a little bit newer of a destination that needs to be explored.
I mean, totally. I mean, even when you look at like the history of the U.S., I mean, look at Detroit, look at what New York used to be, look at what L.A., what like Seattle. There's so many of these cities that either were primary cities and now they're tertiary cities or below.
Yeah.
And then you see all these cities right now that are on the rise, from your Nashvilles, your Raleigh, North Carolinas, Salt Lake City, that have these like huge tailwinds. I mean, especially quality of life. People can work remote.
Yep.
So I guess 2 questions. Number one is, I mean, give me like the TLDR of like what your pitch is, like, or what this like template deck looks like.
Yeah.
And then also, what are those cities that we tend to compete with the most?
So what's really funny is that for years and years, we were racking our brain of like, what is our tagline? Like, how do we have an elevator pitch that we can define Salt Lake in 10 seconds or less? Because for a long time, it was like apologetic. So it was, well, you really can drink here, so it was trying to be really apologetic for who we are.
It's not as bad as you think.
Yeah, it's not as bad as you think. Like, the liquor laws aren't terrible. And then we kind of went into this like other side where it was sort of like touting like alcohol so much that it was kind of like, see, you can party here. And it was like, whoa. And I remember a meeting planner during COVID, actually, we were doing kind of a focus group, and he said, you guys are a major convention city. Obviously you have bars and restaurants. Like, that is a minimum requirement.
Yeah. Like, the
and
box
it
is
was
checked.
kind of like, okay, we can let this die, So we went through several iterations, but recently we're actually in a brand launch because last year Travel and Leisure put out a story and it said, move over Denver. Salt Lake is America's mountain city. And instantly the team got together and they're like, that's it. That's our trademark. We're America's mountain city. And that is all you need to say.
Yeah.
Like, it really just says it all. And it's so simple. But because what that really means is that we're a city of juxtapositions, that you can have city meets mountain. You can have, the fresh air and the urban vibe. And you can do all of these things, but how you tie that into one tagline is just America's mountain city.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something that we can own. And I really believe it to be true, that it's our differentiator, and there's no other destination, I think, that can claim that in the way that we can.
Yeah. No, totally.
It's amazing.
It literally is the only true mountain city. I mean, the only ones that you could Denver's one always comes up, but I will beat that dead horse if it's not truly mountain city.
Yeah.
I mean, Boise's great, but like outside of that, it's like you're either working too much or it's not the same quality that you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you pair it in with, having the airport so close. And I think all of these magic ingredients are coming to Salt Lake at the right time.
Yeah.
And again, I equate it to like adolescence, where it's like, oh, we're growing up. Yeah. So fun.
We're a little angsty teen right now, but come back in a couple of years. We'll apologize for where we were.
Yeah. I mean, we have so many clients that will come and like, they had a convention 5 years ago and now they're here again. And they're like, oh my gosh, we can't believe how much this city has changed. And it's like, yeah, it is pretty wild.
Like even me, because I grew up kind of avenues and then east side of Salt Lake. And then now I live in Marmalade District, kind of by the Capitol. And so I don't go over there that much. And so I'll go to my mom's house for dinner and go see a friend back. Where did this, like I drove past and it was like the Office Depot got torn, or Staples office. Anyway, that Office big box store and then the Village Inn were like not just torn down, but already almost built with like new apartments already.
It's wild.
And that's the thing, like going back to like the van trip. I mean, when I would go places, I would look like there is no optimism here. Like nothing's going well, or like nothing is there's a few reasons people would go there, and even then it's not like there's that much growth.
Right.
When I lived in Seattle, I lived at this high rise, and I would look out, and every day I could count at least 16 cranes.
Yeah.
And when I came back to Salt Lake in 2018, I moved in hardware apartments downtown, and was sitting on the roof. I was like, there's 20 cranes here.
Yeah.
And I have no idea why or how, but it's happening.
It is happening.
And so again, like curious of those cities that people kind of, compare us from.
Yeah, so convention business is a little bit different because it's all about kind of the infrastructure that you have. So we compete against, San Antonio, Reno, Denver, Phoenix, Seattle to a certain extent, Nashville, Anaheim. And so there's sort of those ones that are like in terms of what they can offer a delegate. In terms of like cities that we compete against with assets, I would say it's Denver, it's Phoenix, it's Reno a little bit. It's kind of like the Mountain West, you know? And I always laugh when people compare us to Denver because I'm like, actually, Denver is, 10 times our size. Like there's not a whole lot of comparison other than we're both in Western states. And that is it. Yeah. And there's skiing, you know, but there's not a lot of similarities. So
no, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I know that like there's some hallmark of, actually, no, let's take a step back. Because it's like interesting when people try to do something elsewhere. And like the easiest example is outdoor retail.
Totally.
They come in, like, listen, we don't like what's going on. We're going to Denver.
Yeah.
2 years later, like, guess who's back?
Yeah.
Because like, again, like the accessibility, also just being in the mountain town of being the outdoor retailer. And like, this year with Sundance having their like last hurrah, part of me is like, do you want us to like turn your room into the gym that your parents always wanted? Or do we want to keep your bed and all your trophies still up?
Yeah.
So, time will tell, but I've semi-strong opinion on that one. But, and I'm also, because like you guys also do a lot of like unique programming.
We do.
Like when I think, I don't know why, but when I think of Visit Salt Lake, like, ski journeying comes up, that's like right around the corner.
Yep.
And talk to me a little about like those events that you've kind of cemented yourself in that you guys love throwing and just like bringing people together.
So we have definitely gotten a little bit more into the event space. And a lot of that just came, well, to be honest, skijoring was like a December 3 years ago that I was like, hey guys, wouldn't it be cool if I wanted to show the juxtaposition if we had horses with Nordstrom in the background? And they were like, sure, because they always get nervous with my ideas. Yeah. And then we hosted it two months later, and we were literally like, is anyone going to show up to this? And now it's 20,000 people.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how that happened. But really strategically, we try to look at times in the booking calendar that are we call them need periods. And so times that are sort of like lower occupancy for the hotels or the restaurants, and then we try to fill things in. And so it's really fun to experiment. This last year, we partnered with Silicon Slopes on their summit. That was a really fun thing to be a part of. I think what you're going to see more and more is we're trying to identify events that are kind of more like festival-esque. Think like Kilby Court, is a good example. Things that are kind of like that, where they're multi-day events. They bring in a lot of out-of-state visitors. They're not conventions, but they're just really successful. Yeah. And so we're trying to identify what are those. Is it a Bravo Fan Fest? Is it? Who knows? You know.
But I love where your creative head's at. It's like, here are my ideas out, and let's put it together.
Yeah, and we're not. We're fine to poach events. Like if someone wants to give Salt Lake a shot, come on over. So that's one way that we're trying to kind of diversify our portfolio too, especially as the Salt Palace heads into some renovations and, things are happening downtown. So we're figuring out how can we backfill with some of these other events that can utilize different kinds of spaces, which is really fun and exciting.
Yeah, I'm curious to get your take on that too, because like even just using the festivals, for example. Yeah. So like Red West is on its third year after Country Fan Fest decides it's not going to do it anymore. And by the time this episode launches, they'll have announced that now we have this 2-weekend festival coming up in October right before that.
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We have the Breakaway Festival that's going to be happening. So it's like interesting to see how like people have more and more been like, hey, we're going to go here.
Yeah.
So curious about, any kind of like differences in those conversations or like because like my brain always goes to like, oh, like Salt Lake has like is very pro-business, and if anybody wants to do something here, they'll make it happen.
Yeah.
So curious, like your insight into that.
Yeah. So we have had in the last couple of years some different, I would say, kind of funding streams open up, in that we have some ability to be nimble and kind of incentivize business to come here and give us a shot. So anyone out there that wants to bring, it has to be a certain scale of event, but we really want to support people that want to bring big ideas and big things to the community. And we have some resources that we can put behind that. And we really believe that what we saw coming out of COVID, I should back up. So when I started, which was literally the first day of COVID, not kidding, March 16th, 2020,
Sure.
2 hours in, I was on a press conference with Mayor Mendenhall and the governor, and we were shutting down the convention center. So I've been through a lot in terms of how to strategize.
I mean, it's only up from there, I guess.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, great. But the reason why I'm mentioning that is that coming out of COVID, in 2021, we launched our sports division, which is basically what had happened is that Utah was pretty open at that point to movement and visitation. California was still very shut down, and we had all of these youth and amateur tournaments that wanted to come and play, whether it was soccer or whatever sport it was, but they couldn't do it in California. So they all came here. And so now about a third of our business that we book is under our sports division, which is called Sports Salt Lake.
Interesting.
So the reason why I'm saying all that is that what we realized coming out of COVID is that we had to kind of diversify our portfolio, as you talk about like a 401k.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there was no strategic planning session of like, all right, kids tournaments and sports.
Right. I mean, there was like, and now it's like a team of 7. They've grown like crazy. But it did make us realize that you can't put all your eggs in one basket because the economy ebbs and flows and things happen. So now we have sports, we have conventions, and now we're sort of adding this arm of what are some festivals and events that, you know, equally bring a huge economic impact. People travel for them.
Oh, all the time.
You know, they stay in hotels for them. They still dine out. So it's like, do they tick all the boxes that we're trying to achieve? Yeah. So let's try to fill the calendar with all of the things. And it's not that we're necessarily partial to any one group of visitor. It's just, we welcome everyone.
Yeah. Come spend money, stay here, eat here, all the things.
Yeah.
Because it's always curious whenever I'm driving around downtown and I'll see like a bunch of like 10-year-olds with volleyball basket or bags on, or a bunch of kids in like basketball jerseys. I'm like, oh, there's got to be a tournament somewhere, a convention
and
center,
it's
like
funny
that.
too, because there's a tournament or a convention for everyone. So today I walked outside and I was reminded like, oh yeah, we have 30,000 students between the ages of 12 and 18 from the Church of Nazarene. And they are here and they are rocking and rolling in this convention.
Oh, someone has a loudspeaker out front.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it's so great.
Yeah.
You know, I walked past Kupla, the coffee shop, and it was like the line was 50 people out the door. And I thought, good for them.
Yeah.
You know, I love seeing it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting to see like one of my good friends, Mateo Sonia, who owns Mateo.
Oh, yes.
I mean, he moved from by Liberty Park to here. And I was like, well, like that was pretty quick after doing it. But then I was actually at a convention here.
Yeah.
And I look like across the street and it's just booming.
Well, we actually have him, and I can't remember the exact testimonial, but essentially it says, you know you're successful when you're busy on a Tuesday. And it was so interesting because he was referring to the convention business and then also all the business he gets from, you know, the NHL and the NBA games. And he has a very diverse portfolio.
Yeah.
You know?
It's almost
awesome.
like you guys helped him
I
bring
know.
the right people there. But it's like that trickle down, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
people, I mean, especially if you don't understand like the aspect of Visit Salt Lake and everything it does, and you're to be like, oh, why is there so many people down here? Like, why are these businesses doing so
Yeah.
well? It's like, we're the ones putting this foot and like bringing everything in
I always
here
laugh
and
because I'm
selling it.
like, people must just think like these people just show up, you know? And I'm like, actually we booked, you know, that USA volleyball group of 30,000, we booked that, you know, 5 years ago.
Yeah,
But it's really fun to watch the community reap the rewards of it. And we're building a legacy,
Totally.
you know, and it's amazing.
And so, I mean, I think the biggest elephant in the room for a lot of people in Utah, and I mean, I'm sure it's on your mind every day, is looking toward 2034 in the Olympics. I mean, talk to me about how you're thinking about that, the things you're planning right now and
Yep.
getting everything in motion so it's the best success possible.
Yeah. So I am so excited about 2034, but I think I'm even more excited about the lead up because I think there is a lot of business opportunity that we can leverage, whether that is activating around the Olympic venues, because we have a lot of visitors that want to come and they want to try speed skating or they want to try bobsledding or so there's that piece. We also have a very strong storytelling piece where we can help the athletes tell their story. So we have a speakers bureau and they're already speaking on several circuits and in front of convention delegates and things like that. And so I think there's a lot of narrative buildup. And again, sort of our timeliness of launching America's Mountain City is sort of just cementing that we are a winter sports destination. And we talk so much about how a lot of these athletes, they live, work, train here, and they can have a super well-rounded life and do all of those things, and go to school if they want to, and hop on a plane and be in Europe for a competition and then fly back. And there's so many of them that talk about Salt Lake as like, this is the only place for them. Yeah. And so I think, as we build that, and that builds like the next generation of athletes, and we're just going to cement our place in kind of the Olympic ethos.
Yeah, it was one thing that I always took for granted. Like even today when I was working at Edison House, I mean, one of my friends who literally was in the Olympics, she was sitting there getting ready for med school applications. Yeah. And I was talking to my friend who's a trail runner. And I was like, well, who are some of the best runners? He's like, you have to understand, like the top 20 male and female runners all live here. Yeah. And like, I mean, Park City has the winter school and like how many different Olympians and X Games medalists. And then everybody decides to come here for school so they can do it at the U. And like, I mean, I had the best college experience because I'd have school till 10:30 or 12. My skis would be on my ski rack. Yeah. 3 minutes later, I'm on a ski lift and ski till I'm tired, 3, 4, go work, school,
I mean,
whatever.
There was some stat in the last games in Milan about, I think it was like half of the Olympians had ties to Utah, which is really crazy. Yeah. It's unbelievable, but it's because that is literally who we are. I mean, it's remarkable.
And from like the Olympic, because like, I mean, if you were here in 2002, there's so many memories, it's like such an impact. I mean, what did we learn from that we're going to apply to 2034 or do differently? I mean, talk to me a little bit about how you frame it from what we've already gone through.
So, I would say, I was actually in Lausanne last week at the IOC, so the International Olympic Committee, and meeting with them. And
also gorgeous place.
Oh, so gorgeous. Yeah. I mean, stunning. And it was very hot. They're having a heat wave. But, and they without a doubt said Salt Lake is the most compact footprint of any Olympic Games, and also probably more compact than you could ever even get. Yeah. And they're like, that is the ingredient for success. Is it's so compact. Everything is within 1 hour. I went to Milan this last year, and those villages are 8 hours by train apart, And I think the biggest thing is not that it's not about the spectators. It's that in Salt Lake, all the athletes can stay together. They can stay at the University of Utah. And when you think about, that's the whole premise of the Olympics, is the athletes and the bonding and the camaraderie. And in Milan, or Milano Cortina, they were all separated. They couldn't even go support each other at each other's events, even, if you were on Team USA, you had people 8 hours away. And so I think that is the biggest thing, is that all the athletes can be housed together. It's a super tight footprint. And I think we're also one of the only destinations that does not have to build more facilities, and that our facilities are in really good working order. I met with, while I was in Milano Cortina, I met with Brisbane, who's hosting the Summer Games in 2032. And they were telling me they had to build something like 18 venues. And I was like, what? I mean, how are you? I mean, they're going to, I'm sure, be fantastic, but how are you even selected? Yeah. I mean, that's a lot that you have to build. And we're talking kayaking, things, venues. And I'm like, what?
Well, I mean, it reminds me of the China Olympics where for the big air, they had to build a jump out of scaffolding in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And I mean, there's so many Olympic venues that are now, ghost towns because it just became a thing. Yeah. Whereas now it's 2002, there was such the investment into the I mean, Olympic Park up in Park City, the Olympic Oval, tracks, all of the highway infrastructure that we have. And so now it's like, okay, we've like a lot of the table stakes are set.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess from that perspective, what, if any, infrastructure do you think that we need before then, or what are going to be those comparable things that we look back on 2034, be like, that's when we got this?
Yeah. I think that similar to 2002, I didn't live here at the time, but I came out for the Olympics, and I believe that's when kind of a lot of our public transit got installed. And I think you're going to see a huge public transit push, which I think is fantastic. I mean, what a great thing to build for, whether you have the Olympics or not.
Yep.
And so I think there'll be a huge public transit push. I think a lot of the enhancements will be around mobility. Yeah, and tech.
Which I need, like, if I could wave my magic wand and have Utah do something, it'd be like, can we please just be more of a walking city? Can we please use public transportation more? Like, we're so obsessed with cars and getting them, like, because when I was in Seattle, I sold my car 6 months later because I just wouldn't use it, and I was walking around all the time.
Yep.
And that's what, I mean, it creates better communities because you're interacting with people more, you're interacting with the city more, and I mean, I could stand on that soapbox all day.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in a very strong pivot, you're working on a book, or have a book written.
Yes, I have a book written.
Talk to me about, like, because whenever I look, because I've had multiple friends write books now, but talk to me about what inspired you to write the book, what it's about, when we can expect to see it.
Yeah, so it is out on Amazon. It is called the VX Society, which stands for the Visitor Experience Society. So it's kind of like UX, really meaning like, what is the visitor experience that we want people to have when they're in a destination or in your respective business? And really the whole premise is that, you know, tourism has been around for as long as forever and ever, you know, centuries and centuries. And, you know, there were always reasons why people traveled, and it used to be very elite and only for the people that could really afford it. And then it kind of got democratized. And then somewhere along the lines between the democratization in like the 50s till now, we sort of lost the flavor. You know, we are giving away, we value efficiency, we value speed. We've kind of learned that, you know, dinners should be fast, and, you know, experiences, you should see a lot of things, but maybe not take them in. And so it's really all about slowing down, being really mindful of your senses, but then also kind of these pillars that I believe, there's 6 pillars that I believe if you hit them when you're curating an experience, again, whether it's macro or micro, they're going to resonate on a greater level. And people when they travel, they remember 2 things, and it's the peak and the party. And that's it. Like, so there has to be somewhere in their travel or their experience, there has to be a peak moment that is basically typically like kind of serendipitous, like, wow, that was like kind of surprising. And then how you say goodbye at the end. And that could be, you know, how you give the check at a restaurant, or it could be physically, how do you, you know, say a luxurious goodbye at a resort. And it can be scaled up or scaled down. And I
mean, that's one thing that I'm trying to do better about. And again, it's like that either micro or macro aspect of things. Like even this past weekend, my cousin and family were in town from Oregon, and long story short, my cousin's a chef. He lives in Willamette Valley and wine country. And so whenever he comes, it's like, my goal is to be like, look how far we've come.
Yes.
And so took him to go see my good friend Nick Zacco at Urban Hill. And we like the difference between kind of like what you alluded to of that like transactional experience of like, okay, show up, sit down, eat, you're fed, and go. Which I think Salt Lake is kind of still maturing to that aspect of like a meal as an experience of because like to break bread with someone is to sit down and experience, pause life, catch up, whatever that could be. And then again, like, well, let's do it again sometime. And so, I mean, we were there for 2.5 hours. I mean, we had multiple, I mean, it's just like, when you be able to have that, it goes from, again, like, I need to be fed to an experience that you can especially share with someone. Because again, we're all busy. We all have so many things going on, and to be able to be like, I'm going to pause and put my phone down. I'm just going to be there. Whether that be that dinner, whether it be that trip, convention. It's something that I think Salt Lake is part of that, like growing up adolescent side of things is like, hey, like, if we are going to have better restaurants with better food, if we are going to have better experiences, if we are going to have this premiumization of other things, like, soak it up. Don't just like check the box. Like even as part of that experience this past weekend, we went down to Sundance and went to Tree Room because that's where my cousin kind of had this like epiphany of like food can be so much more than just like sustenance.
Yeah.
And we were at this table, and so my cousin has the wine list open, and we're talking with the sommelier of this and this. We're all, talking very like rambunctiously about the food and having a great experience.
Yep.
And next to me, I see this other table where I could tell it was a husband and a wife. It's probably some sort of celebratory dinner.
Yeah.
It was very much of like, I could tell they ordered an entree, they got a dessert to share to celebrate, and they're out.
Yeah.
And it was cool because the wife came over to us after. She's like, I was just loving your guys' conversation, the way that you experienced this. Take it in, and we're all like, oh, like, yeah, I guess we do have like a good time.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like what people want, but don't necessarily know how to go about that or find it, or like really lean into the moment and be present instead of like, well, how long have we been here for? How long the babysitter there for? How much is it going to cost? But like really being able to say, it's going to be taken care of. We're all going to be okay at this.
Yeah.
Just be here for the moment.
Well, and I think too, not only is it from, the visitor side, like you being, the diner, but I think that something that our frontline team members can do more of is really kind of, I call it like meet the moment, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like kind of, take a look at that person in the eye and kind of judge, like, do they want to have a little fun? Do they want a conversation? Do they want, I always am shocked, like, even when you take an Uber, how much you can learn from the Uber driver and the local color. And I think that a lot of times we just put our head down and we're like, okay, here's the process, step 1 through 5. And it's like, why not just have a little fun with it? Yeah. And people love that. The majority of the time people love it.
And I like traveling that way. It's almost, I kind of think of it like a walk in the woods where like, I know where I'm starting, I know where I'm ending, but there might be a cool overlook. I might see this other side trail that I want to go experience. So it's like giving that flexibility to get away from like the roboticness of, again, like that transactional mindset of things that, we can all do better. Like no one's perfect. We all get stuck in the life of it, but excited for the book. Cause everyone wants to have a better experience, and the way that you can not just give someone a fish, but then help everybody else to give these experiences away.
And the book is very much, it's sort of like, here's the evolution of the experience design, but then half of it's a workbook essentially of like, okay, here's how you can reframe to think about it. And here's some exercises you can do. And, but I think more than anything, it's just that if you give your team and you empower them to lead with creativity and kind of like draw outside the lines a little bit, which I'm a huge fan of, they're going to come up with some amazing ways to serve people, to have people experience the destination or the restaurant. And it's really fun. I'm like, who wants normal? No one wants normal. And what is even normal? But it's like, we want to be colorful. We want to show people that we're fun and we're unique.
Yeah, and give people that space, be like, what do you actually think we should do? Or give me your creative idea.
Yes.
Next thing you know, they're like, hey, maybe we should have some horses pulling people on skis down.
Exactly.
And and until you give people that space, that trust to do so, they're just going to
Well, and I use the one example because I was in Japan a few weeks ago with my son on a high school trip. But, and I was laughing because I paid $60 to go pet a capybara and drink a coffee at the same time. And I'm like, what am I doing? But also, how can I not do this? Yeah. And it was like those experiences that it's kind of the juxtaposition piece where you're like, I'm going to do this because when am I ever going to pet a capybara and drink a coffee again?
And that's your peak. That's
a peak.
Moment. Exactly.
Yeah. So I just think more of that is fun.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so thinking about, now you've been in Utah for a while. What keeps you here instead of ditching us for like a visit Detroit or visit Denver or visit Miami?
Yeah. I would say, so I've had 2 chapters of Visit Salt Lake. So I started my first time when I was 25, and then I worked here for 7 years, and then I had a couple other chapters and then came back as CEO. But so I love it to the point of like, it's my identity, and to the point that like, I love my colleagues like family. So there's a lot of emotional ties here. But I would have to say more than anything, I've got 3 kiddos, and the quality of life that they get to live here. And I'm astonished when they bring home like their field trip notices or their selection of activities they can do with get out and play or whatever. And it's like, would you like to aerial ski? Would you like to learn to bobsled? And I'm like, I don't think they know what real life is.
Yeah, it's like, I need to take them to Wisconsin.
Yeah,
They got to appreciate this.
Yeah. And I'm like, I literally just the access is, you cannot get it anywhere else. And these kids are living magic.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, they don't know how good they have it. And so that's, for me, it's like, I'm very committed to giving them that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a great way to experience it, where not only do you get to bring people here and see that light in their eyes, but then also be able to raise a family in a place where, I mean, it's like a playground, backyard, no matter what they're doing, whether it's, I mean, up in the mountains and skiing or going down to the southern Utah. And like, I always like make fun of my nieces and nephews who are like everywhere from 10 to 18.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I had the things you had now of all of this,
right.
Like you guys got the best of everything.
Totally.
So enjoy it.
Totally. I mean, I was laughing because my son's 14, but last ski season he would hop on the bus and go to the ski resort by himself. And I was like, that just is wild to me.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people, that's like a once in a lifetime bucket list vacation.
And he just gets
and they just get to do it.
Yeah. Like there's all my friends in Park City, they would hop on the bus after school and go, they'd have a locker at CCMR and they grab their skis and go ski for an hour or two and then go home. I'm like, people spend tens of thousands of dollars just to give their kids like that one experience and take the picture. So hopefully 20 years later, they'll remember it.
Yeah. And I think also, you know, it's such an exciting time to be in Salt Lake. Yeah. You know, it's really fun. It's moving super fast. There's tons of development. And to your point, like there's a lot of cities that are going through some really hard issues. And not to say we don't face any of those, but I do sometimes feel like Utah has a unique, almost like insulation around it, in that we don't feel hardships of the economy in the same ways that other destinations do. And again, knock on wood, not to say anything's not possible, but it's just a good place to live.
Totally.
It's a really good place to live.
Well, Kaitlin, before we wrap, want to end with the two questions I always ask everybody.
Yeah.
Number one, if you could have someone on the Small Lake City podcast and hear more about their story or what they're up to, who would you want to hear from?
Oh my gosh. Who would I want to hear from? I think I would want to hear from some of the people behind like Smith Entertainment Group and some of their plans. Which, you know, we're connected as well to all of that, but I would love to hear like the larger vision for the sports and entertainment district and kind of where they feel like the Mammoth are going to land in the next few years. I think that whole thing and how the team was procured and so quickly. And I just think it's really fascinating because I think that the fan base of Utah, I don't know how they pull it together, but every time we bring a new team here, they sell out, and they, you know, it's and wild.
Like, we just wrap our arms around them, like, all right, well, welcome home.
Yeah, so it's sort of like that Utah way, and so I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, it's been fun to become a Mammoth fan and see how we've enjoyed it all. But I agree, like Ryan Smith and team have this amazing way of working on these like astronomically huge things, and somehow like nobody knows until it's like done.
Yeah.
So I do.
I would also love to understand. I would love to talk with someone that was on the architect team for the temple.
Yeah.
Because I've done a few tours, and the number of floors that temple goes down is insane.
Yeah.
And I just want to understand, because I think it's like an architectural, like, amazing relic.
I mean, especially, and then to take it and be like, all right, we're going to put some support underneath it in case an earthquake happens.
Yeah.
And then we're going to act like nothing happened.
So whether you're of the faith or not, I just think the architectural story is fascinating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, we are the grid system, and that is 0, 0 on the XY axis.
Yeah.
So it's whether, you are, you aren't.
And also, who can tell us what is in all the underground tunnels?
Wouldn't that be great? I would like. I posted a reel about it a while ago, and like it was all over. Everyone's like, they're literally just tunnels. To people like, there's trafficking. You don't understand. Like, it was like, God, I want to get to the bottom of that one.
Yeah.
And then lastly, if people want to keep an eye on, Visit Salt Lake, everything they're working on, what's the best place to find information?
Yeah, just go to visitsaltlake.com or follow us on Instagram or Facebook or any of the socials at Visit Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Kaitlin, keep it up. It's been so fun to get a little bit more of a taste of everything that you and the team do.
Thank
I'm
you so
excited
much.
for the future.
I would love to talk with you anytime.
Listen, lunch, coffee, drinks, dinner,
Yes,
all of the things.
all of it.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite new restaurant?
Ooh, favorite new restaurant. I'm also such a bad creature of habit. Where have I been recently? I think it's fun. Like, it's probably not my. Oh, I really like that Sunday's Best is there now.
Yeah.
Because it's, like brunch spots are great, but like to have the space up top is fun for like a lot of
Yeah.
like programming and events
Yep.
there. Anything on like 9th South recently. It's been fun to see like Cosmica come in
I was
and
gonna say
bring
Cosmica.
some experience in from there. But also like the grassroots of, Central 9th Market and everything that Max and Noah are doing there. Like, I
Yeah.
love that even thematically we see this kind of like homegrown rise of people like, hey, I think I can make a cool restaurant.
Yeah.
And like a lot of, like using Sugar House as an example, like after Olympics and kind of like that post-development era, there's all of these like chains, but then
Yeah.
little by little they all kind of backed out, but then like all the greatest things went in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So I think thematically that's it, but then also
Yeah.
like Hopkins Brewing and Sugar House and seeing what Chad's done there has been so fun, especially in like all of the difficulty of Sugar House and all the construction.
Oh, man. But it's open now.
It's open now.
And yeah. So many great things popping up.
Totally.
Yeah.
But Kaitlin, keep it up. I'm so excited to
you.
see what else you and the team work on.
Yes.
Keep going.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you so
thank you.
much. Thanks for having me.